Hello, and welcome to Office Hours with Amber. I'm Amber, and this is Office Hours. It is currently week 4 of July, and I tell you what, summer is here. We're going to make sure that the audio's working. Summer's here. Summer's been here. And I'm busy. Everyone's busy. Let's see if this works. Hello, welcome. Perfect. Fantastic. We've got our girl Esther. She is joining. Let me make sure it works. We're going to get there. Anyways, summer is upon us, and I am so beyond completely overwhelmed all the time. We've got Esther in the chat room, so we will toggle. Hello, how are you? Uh-oh. One sec. Audio's coming through the wrong place. Okay, wait. Say something again.
Hello?
Okay, better. Yay. Okay, you're now through my ears. We've got Emily joining. Oh, Emily, you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Perfect. Okay, well, we'll get ripping. I haven't really done much of an intro yet, so we're just going to get into it. So we are in week 4 of July, and I don't know about you guys, but July has completely kicked my ass every which way. It's like the summer just took me and just like, you know, like kids, how you'll ruffle up their hairs. Like, it's like it just dunked my whole head in the lake. Like I'm just being waterboarded by my to-do list, by the expectations of everything going on. It's like fine and it's like sunny and nice and I love it, but also I'm drowning. But TLDR, today's topic that we're eventually going to go over is accountability. So last month we talked a little bit about perfectionism, and this is actually a subtle ploy because my one of the subsections of my learning plan is accountability and like who can you be accountable to. So I'm making this little quiz. So actually some of your answers are going to weave their way into the final presentation for December. So thank you guys for being here. Ashley, first of all, so we've got Ashley in the YouTube chat, and all I'm saying is perhaps hop on Zoom because we'd love to chit chat with you, but also thank you for being in the chat. But yeah, before I get on anything, let's go round robin. Emily, how was your month? Your goals? How are things going?
It's been good. Like it's been a mix, a bit of everything. There were some things I thought, it's like, I've got lots of time to do that. And then last week I was like, oh, hang on. No, that's not going to happen. And especially because they were like outside things and it's like a billion degrees out. So those things are not happening. I was going to remulch the flower beds. I was like, no, not going to happen.
Nope.
But yeah, so I didn't do those when it was appropriate. But not too bad. There were some things that I had on my list and I was looking at them and I'm like, you know what? I don't need to do these. I said I was going to do them and then I reevaluated and I was like, these are not bringing value to me. I thought they would and they're not. And, you know, when they've been on your list for like 3 months and you're like, yeah, I just, every day you look at them and you're like, I don't want to do this. And I'm like, no, I don't actually have to. So they've gone. So
that is super important. And I feel the exact same way. This month was Python. And in the midst of me trying to learn Python, I was like, wait, I don't need to do this. It is not impacting my day to day. Obviously, I want, like, the whole goal is to push myself further, but like, I was struggling to find any benefit to me specifically. And I was like, I think that's a sign from God and the universe that it just isn't the month for it. Especially with the weather. I don't know if Toronto and Michigan are similar mugginess right now, but it is so gross. Like I go outside and I'm instantly sweating and I expect summer to be hot, but that's dreadful.
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty It's pretty bad.
It's gross.
So I feel you, and I'm glad you at least gave yourself the mental allowance to say, you know what, not for me this month.
Yeah, well, this was separate things. These were not what these were like work things that they were
Oh, oh,
projects
oh.
that I thought would be good. Yeah, the other things I'm like, are, my garden is. I cooked it. I cooked it anyway and killed my plants in when I forgot to water them, and so that's fine. But no, there was some work things that I thought would bring value, and they're not really going to. So they're gonna leave and not just stare at me for another 3 months before I.
I do that often where I call it realigning the chakras, where I look at the whole backlog of every good idea I've had and I'm like, you know what? That was a good idea last year. And then now it's just been on the list staring at me. So I'm glad that you at least cleared out the backlog that we just know is not going to happen.
Yeah.
Very cool. Esther, how are we doing? What's the goals? I know this month was you were taking it at least a little easier on yourself, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
good.
This month's goal was to play 4 rounds of disc golf and try at least one new course.
Okay.
Given that most of the time I play disc golf every Sunday, 4 rounds was not a challenge. Like that number was not challenging at all. But I didn't count exactly how many rounds I played. I think about 6 or 7.
That's great.
And I played 3 new courses. So
Hey,
Awesome.
Mazel Tov. That's great. And especially setting like time of year appropriate goals, I think is actually a skill that some folks don't really realize. And so especially looping it into your routine where that isn't actually an unrealistic goal and being able to
yeah,
achieve it feels good. So how cool.
yeah,
When
it
did you
was a lot
start
of
playing
fun.
disc golf? How long have you been playing
Uh,
disc golf?
about 2 years ago, maybe 3.
And do you have like specific people you go with or is it like a solo activity?
I go with my family mostly.
Oh, very, very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm almost done asking these questions, but and it'll relate to the topic later. But if your family didn't kind of routinely go, do you think you would still go by yourself often, or is it kind of like a community
I wouldn't
focused
go
thing?
alone.
Mm,
Um, I sometimes go with my boyfriend, sometimes go with someone from work. Like I went with a couple of friends on a trip I was on the other week. But yeah, I would not play nearly as often if I didn't go with my family every Sunday.
absolutely. I've been recognizing this with myself. Pretty much any physical activity like golf, swimming, like it is just so infinitely easier for if someone else is like, hey, want to go do blank? Like, sure thing, I'm in. But if it's just me to me, zero chance or like 1%, but it's like fleeting and not systemic. So that's cool that you at least have a hobby that you have people that routinely do with you.
Yeah.
Okay, last question about it. When you guys started playing together, were you the one to pose it up to the family or was it someone else in the family that asked you?
No, my brother started playing a couple years before I did. And then I
Gotcha.
started like tagging along every once in a while and slowly got more into it.
Absolutely.
And then, sorry, I have a question. So,
Yes.
when you move? What do you have a new? Is that something that's big in the UK, or are you going to have to find a new activity?
I have been scoping out courses around London. I think there are
Okay.
some options. I'll have to see if I can talk any coworkers over there into trying it,
Hmm.
playing with me.
I feel like that could be a very easy icebreaker because then you have like chances to chit chat and like that's such an easy
Yeah.
in. And it's not like, you're playing like tackle football. That's a little easier of a request.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
How interesting. So, similarly, Emily, are there things that you do extracurricularly that without friends or without other people doing it, you probably wouldn't do yourself? And that's kind of a loaded, weird question.
Um, like I know for things like swimming, there's certain things that I will go because my son wants company. He doesn't do things by himself. So,
Hell yeah.
so yeah, so there's some things that it's good for that. And he's like, oh, are we going for a walk today? And then, oh, let's go in the pool. And it's like, great. I do want to. So that's, that's good. The other thing I do though is because a lot of the things like I want to do, don't really have somebody who wants to do those with me. So actually one of my goals like for the year, right, is to try new things. So I actually signed myself up for a workshop at a local art thing. So I've been doing watercolor. But it's just July. Like tomorrow's the last one. But
Cool.
that's kind of like because I signed up for the program. And so therefore I go.
Absolutely. And with the like at this program, have you met other people that are in it as well? And like, are we vibing with them, or is it kind of like more solo as you're there with like an instructor?
Yeah, I mean, there's a bit of, we chit chat a bit, but it's not like it's not like a whole, like it's, 4 weeks. So it's not really going to, I don't think, build.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
It's not like, you did like a year-long course or something. You saw the same people all the time. And it's even the,
Yeah,
because of like vacations, some people are missing classes and whatnot. So I don't think so. It's kind of neat to, get out, and it's at a cool venue, and it's neat to go and try it. I don't think that this is something I'm going to want to commit to like long term, but it was cool for a summer once a week kind of activity. It's good.
Absolutely. I found there's I thought so similarly. I wanted to play more golf a few years ago, or maybe last year, and I signed up for a golf, like a intramural little situation golf. I don't know what the scramble weekly summer scramble situation, and it was like 8-9 weeks long every Wednesday, and I got paired up with people. But like golf is kind of now between the two groups. I signed up because I didn't have anyone to go with, a little summer league, but I didn't really vibe with the guys I was paired up with. Like it was like 2-3 hours of just kind of silence and golf. And I, although wanted to sign up and I paid for it to like do more, like play more golf, I also didn't actually vibe with anyone who did it. So I actually was more disincentivized because I was like, oh, I don't want to have to talk to these people for 2-3 hours. So it's interesting. Well, the nice thing is like with like a class, you're like actively gaining a skill. Whereas the summer league, I wasn't really learning anything. I was just out there golfing. Yeah. And although I enjoyed it, it's actually, because I was forced with these people, I was actually detracted from it, which is kind of a weird little moment I had with myself of like the disincentive of not great people with could actually have more negative impact than the positive impact of people doing it. I'm talking in circles, but I thought that was kind of weird, but that's cool. And I have been starting to dissect my whole life on like and this has been an ongoing thing I've been doing, is like what levels of accountability and what accountability systems do I have to keep myself doing things or committing to my hobbies. And I would actually say that I am the least committed and least trustworthy with myself for all of my hobbies. Like the only things that are consistently getting done is like work and like work auxiliary things to work. So like Office Hours with Amber technically is not work, but I have created it as like a work vertical op, and so now I'm looking at, books and crafts and all of these things, and I have literally nothing to keep me accountable to doing those things. And I almost feel controlled if I was to systematize it like I am Office Hours with Amber, because there's I don't know, I'm starting to feel controlled by it. So, TLDR, do you find with your personal, well, I think Emily, I know your answer is because a lot of your habit and goal systems do include a lot of hobbies. And I think, Esther, yours too. Do you have the same accountability systems and people with your professional life as you do your personal and kind of hobby life? So, and when I mean accountability, like personally, with peers, with professionals, and publicly. Those are the kind of like 4 areas of accountability I'm leaning into. But like, do you see with your different aspects of life that you have different systems of accountability? End scene. There's so many words. I'm so sorry.
I mean, yeah, I mean, obviously it's very different, like with your hobbies, like unless, you've committed to, like, I don't know, making something for somebody's birthday or whatnot that has like a fixed deadline.
Date.
So I have a few of those things right now because I'm trying to make something for my daughter before she goes off to university, right? So I have, that's kind of a deadline. But most of my things don't, like, if I finish it or not, it really doesn't make any difference to anybody.
Yep.
But I found that it makes me happy when I finish them and when I do them. And so sometimes I'm like, I could just sit on the couch and play my game, or I could sit on the couch, watch the baseball while I'm working on the blanket, and I can still, and which one will make me feel better at the end of the night.
Yeah.
So it's just like, at least I try not to, again, unless there's like a birthday or something, but not stress up and stay up all night. And, you got to be able to let go of these projects. But I know that if I were to spend, half an hour a day on my craft projects, it makes me happy. Like, and then that's enough that I will actually see progress, right? If I do that, which then makes me feel like I'm doing something, because sometimes you've just been in meetings all day and you haven't actually seen anything happen. It's just kind of frustrating. And your house has just gotten messy and all these other things. Nothing's really done that, but you can say, and it's like, no, you know what? There's 2 more inches on my blanket today. Like, it's something tangible that you can see. So I find is good. And I find it's a good counterpoint to the kind of work that I do.
Yeah.
To do this more creative stuff. So I find it's important to kind of push myself a little bit. And that's why I do the tracking things. Again, try not to be too rigid about it. And the goals that I have, like on my bingo, like, they're really, really vague. And like, there was the one that I was going to do this month. I was having trouble getting the materials. So I just swapped in something else that, for me was an equivalent box. And that's fine. I'm not going to freak out about it. I couldn't get the supplies I needed.
Yeah.
But it's still a summer project, and I got what I wanted to get done, and it made me happy. So it's just
That's
that, because
awesome.
otherwise I find it's just too hard. You just do work and not fun stuff, and because you're tired from the rest.
Yeah. And like, I'm having a full circle, like, processing in real time moment right now. And like, it's like, what I wrote down was, happy is enough to encourage you to get something pushed forward. And I'm like, when's the last time I like even like mildly prioritized happy as a result? And I don't lead my life with like happiness as the goal, but like contentment is usually my like normal shooting for. But like, also remembering like, oh yeah, it would make me happy if I got one little teeny thing done, and remembering that incremental joy or enjoyment you get from that is enough to just sometimes, like, I think I've been working so hard to get myself all of like the motors in my brain working to get me to do things I don't want to do, that I actually have completely shut off the part of my brain that's like, oh, hey, actually you'd like really enjoy doing this one thing in like an hour, like a half hour or an hour, especially like you were saying, like swapping out miscellaneous brain time for intentionally happy time is interesting. And this is the moment that my brain's, turning on. So very cool. Esther, what about you? How do you see the differences between your personal and professional accountability, if at all?
I think some of my personal is lumped in with professional. Like, when I was studying for the CFA, that was technically personal, but felt professional.
Yeah.
And I mean, my motivation for that was very much lumped in with professional accountability. In terms of personal, I think I also forget to make time to do the things I like a lot of the time, other than where there is like structure put in place for them.
Yeah.
So yeah, like Sundays I play disc golf with my family, and then afterwards we always play board games, and I love board games. Um, but I don't think about playing board games most of the time, except, on Sunday afternoons when that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, recently I've been getting more into reading again. And honestly, I think a big part of that is because I was talking to you about books. And
Woo!
like, yeah, like just having another person to bounce things off of, to remind me that it exists,
Yeah.
makes me remember to do it. Like
That
I have so many craft projects that I haven't touched in a year or more because I just forget they exist. And
that's so important.
The other
yeah,
thing too that I don't know if you feel the same way, Esther, is then when you come across them and you look at them, and then sometimes like does it make you feel bad that you
yeah,
have them and they've been ignored, and you're like,
yeah,
I spent money and time on this, so sometimes you're like, I could just finish this, and then not only am I happy because I did it, and then you're also eliminating this source of guilt.
yeah, yeah.
Because sometimes I feel like you like walk by and then they're like looking at you. You left me.
That's
Yeah. I have my sewing machine just off to the side, and I have used it maybe twice in the past year, and mostly for like
sewing
things that
machine.
needed to be done.
Hemming pants.
Yeah,
Yep.
one of
Mhm.
which was hemming something for someone else.
Okay.
Um, Meanwhile, I have a list of at least 10 sewing projects that I have purchased fabric for and either not started or not finished.
Well,
And
then
at this point, they're not getting finished because my sewing machine isn't coming to England with me.
rest in peace. That's tough. But I totally understand that not coming with. Yeah. I was about to say, I was
You're
like,
going to watch the sewing bee live when you go.
Pardon?
You're going to be able to watch the sewing bee live as opposed to like 3 years later.
I was about to say, I was like, well, if you're the cool thing of what you just said unlocked more parts of my brain. So with having someone to bounce things off of helps remind you that things exist. So one, I actually have gotten more into reading as I've made it more of a team sport. So now by taking notes, it actually one locks in what the hell's happening in this book. Two, I know if I have these notes, I'm going to suggest more books to other people because I remember what happened. And I'm so excited to follow up with them. I'm like, hey, what's going on? Also, I need to reread your notes because you sent all such good ones. And I need to compare what I had left for that one. So I'm putting that back in my mental because that's important. But by me having my notes now, and when I go to talk to people at bars, and now it's a conversation topic for anybody I could talk to. So it actually gets me more excited to continue getting through them. And ACOTAR 6 just got announced, or mildly teased, linked, whatever. And so now I have this intrinsic need that I need to get all of these books done so I can be up to date by the time it comes out. So totally agree on the books thing. I think I want to make an intentional effort of listing out the hobbies that bring me the most joy and who is a good bounce back person for that. So, like Esther, you with books makes a lot, like us with books makes a lot of sense. And like me with two girls from my hometown. Secondly is like the videos that I make. I have a friend, Jimmy, that I think always gets enjoyment hearing the silly videos I make and then being able to send them to him and see what he's working on. And so I think that's going to be a small thing. And I actually did this after last month's call when you know how, Emily, you mentioned the more ambiguous or more ambiguous the task or more that it's kind of vague or you don't know how to do it, like making a time like 15 minutes just to give it a shot rather than time blocking the entire time to do that thing. Now with my, and this is gonna look silly. Oh, did I leave it at work? I'm gonna freak out. That sucks. I just printed off a new priority matrix, and so every task is now time to do, impact of doing, ambiguity level, as well as a body double partner. So not only, I think with hobbies, I don't need a body double to like encourage me to get it done. I need someone to be able to like energetically and passionately bounce ideas off of, because hobbies don't need, like, hobbies, my mindset around hobbies is they're not something to do. Like, it is something to do, but it's not like something on. I think changing my relationship with the task of completing a hobby needs to be viewed as more of like a joy seek rather than the weight off of me. And also giving it I'm going to give myself an hour, not it takes an hour, 2 hours to finish this project. So similarly working, I think my systems can be similar, but the undertow approach to them can be different. So beautiful, beautiful. Man, you guys always have the best ideas. Other nice thing is if there's ever a hobby that you want people to give you flowers on, throw that in the ADHD toolbox or the monthly goals toolbox, and I will be there to just pepper you with excitement. How interesting. Okay, so I went to ChatGPT as I do, and I asked it some questions about accountability. And so the next few did not come from my brain, sorry to say. So, when do you feel the most trustworthy to yourself, or when do you start to feel like you've let yourself down? So, like, what are similar scenarios that are trust building? We'll start there. What are things that you easily can build trust with yourself on lately? I don't think that I'm like halfway. I think that's like almost a good question for ChatGPT. Basically, and I'll kind of, for example, I have been building trust with myself, accountability, like peer or personal accountability. I've been building personal accountability by doing my laundry every Sunday and my dishes every Sunday, and also making my bed every day. Like the Finchbird app has actually been helping me create trust with myself on like little tasks. But I tend to see myself letting myself down when it comes to like PowerPoints or presentations I have to give that have anything with really a firm deadline. I let myself down every single time because I wait till like almost the last day and I'm scrambling. So it's a loose question, but what areas of your life are you building trust, and what areas of your life could you probably use some healing in? That's such a bad question. I'm sorry.
Well, I guess my big problem is like, as long as like, I'm keeping all the balls in the air, it's good. I can I'll just keep going and pushing through. And as soon as, something happens and I have to give up on one of them doesn't work out, or even if I say, look, you know what, it's not worth it today to push myself for this or whatever it is, then they all come crashing down. And again, like sort of like the vacation thing, but just not even to that scale. So, there's some habits like I'd been pushing myself to do, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do them for a month, and then of course as soon as it's done, okay, no, you don't want it to be like eternally on the to-do list, but it's just clearly if they're not on the to-do list, then I feel like it's okay to let them go, but it's not really. So that's kind of balancing like when is it okay to give up on things and rebounding from small setbacks. I'm not very good at that.
That's important. Because it's not, there's, like you were saying, like when all the balls are in the air, we're juggling and things are good. Like you're building a lot of trust with yourself, but because like you pull there used to be that game, like you pull the little pin out and all the marbles fall out. And have been trying to heal a little bit of the all or nothing mindset, which is real tough because I love a spiral. I think that's where I see myself. I don't like need medication for like every single day, but I do notice myself when I'm about to let all the marbles out, the medication stops half the marbles and it's like, whoa, 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 wait, we don't need to let all of them out. Like just keep this up here and then like, reset. But interesting. No, I'm probably, so some of these I'm going to take afterwards and like look inward, and I'll probably bring like follow-up stuff next month about kind of where it led me. But like, it's interesting to like, the more I like ask questions in my brain about like how I interact with things, the more questions come up. So now I'm like, oh, how do I interact with the all or nothing? So especially because I've been traveling last weekend and this coming weekend, and you might have noticed that my monthly recap email sent out an hour and a half ago instead of usually it's 24 hours before. So it got to today, I was like, fuck. So I forgot. And so because I was traveling, all of my stuff's starting to shake too. So similarly, I'm like, okay, Amber, first of all, no one cares. Second of all, just send it now. And so I'm going to do some more research on the all or nothing mindset. But cool.
What's weird though is that my Garmin app knows when the marbles are about to fall.
Really? Wait,
Yeah.
What do you mean?
So it measures something which it calls HRV, and generally sometimes there's like a delay. I'm not sure what it is, but it's like, I don't know. It's like the Garmin heart rate variability or something. I don't quite understand how it works, but generally the periods in which things are falling apart are this measure is no longer in the green zone. It's like, but it doesn't tell me like when it's going to happen, but I can see after. So clearly it's like picking up on my stressor or something somehow, which is it's really kind of weird because yeah, so that's one of the things. So I have to try to find a way to check that before it gets way out of the zone.
Yeah, no, that's huge. And I'm going to Google that later because similarly, not exactly, but what I recognized with the monthly hormone cycle of being a woman and also ADHD and PMDD is like the massive drop off of estrogen or the massive spike in testosterone. There's like one drop and then spike that happens, and that has a lot to actually do that actually impacts executive function and ability to like kind of stay locked in. So I noticed this the last 2 years now that I've been like more cognizant. Like I always knew that I thought that, and this might be both like correlation and causation, but what I recognize is, how when you get really behind and then you get all caught up right at the same time, and then you're so exhausted from getting caught up that you kind of like level off or kind of steady out. And so I thought, or get sick, exactly. And so I've had this kind of like turbulent, like catch up, get behind for literally forever. And then I'm like, is that related? And so I'm monitoring now that I actually like monitor like my cycle and everything. I've been monitoring that like the 3 days before my period or like the week before, I am useless. I think I am the worst person that's ever existed. I think that I am fat, ugly, and horrible. And then the second my period starts, I'm like, wait a minute, that was just my like that's just, what are we talking about? And so I've been looking into apparently Pepcid or there's a certain Pepcid or something, antihistamine. I'm mixing some words up. Anyways, apparently it's something to do with histamines in the brain. There's a whole lot of science that I am not qualified to talk about. However, I've been Googling the shit out of it because hormones plus ADHD plus like the female cycle and the moon and the stars, a lot of things going on. So I'm no longer accepting that I am just like, because there's parts where you're like, okay, ADHD, I've lived with it forever. And it's just, why is it so different every single week? So I'm trying to find more reasons that it is all connected. And it's really interesting, this HRV thing, because then and that comes back to like the body's response to stress, the hormones response to stress, everything is connected. And so not that I'm trying to solve the case of be the best worker I can be and be the most productive. It would just be nice to feel like kind of normal, kind of consistently. So the HRV thing is really cool that you found.
Yeah, and then just seeing that mine is kind of going up. It's not out of the zone, but it just means like, you know what? Maybe it's a day to give myself a break.
Yeah. And how cool that you wear your stuff like so consistently that like, cause I would wear it every few days and then I'd forget. And I'm like pretty bad about that, but I do love my garment. So I might turn that thing back on to start watching this stuff. How cool. How cool. But yes, give yourself a break. It's July and like, it is stressful enough out here. What about you, Esther?
I don't even know what question you're asking me
Oh,
anymore.
fuck. I think we were on the in what ways are you building trust with accountability and are building trust with yourself? And in what ways or what areas do you think you could learn from? And we have another guest. We have Ashley joining us. I hope she has margaritas on her porch. Let's see if she's joining in a sec. There she is.
Not sure I'm not sure I know how to answer that question.
That's okay. It is kind of like one, a not great question, and then two, kind of difficult. Ashley girl, are you with us?
I think so. This is actually the first time I've ever used Zoom on my phone instead of on my laptop. So pardon the weirdness here. I'm also outside and like I said, drinking margaritas. So you get like this is unfiltered on everything. This is my best life right here.
Fantastic. This is
Hello,
the whole
ladies.
point. Thank you for joining. That's so fun. If I could take this whole computer outside, I would be out there. Also, did you make the
was
margaritas
a
yourself?
day.
Oh,
Oh
wait,
yeah.
wait, tell us about it if you'd like.
Oh, about my day
Yeah, tell us about your day.
or the margaritas, one of the
I
two.
mean, both of
Um,
them.
no, work has just been a little bit of a beast lately, but it's a good a good sort of thing. Just a lot. I was traveling last week. So I was in Louisville and Chicago for a couple days each, which was good. But per the work from home environment, like then when you have stuff where either you haven't been to that specific office in a couple years, or like it's even for an introvert, like I will go on record and say that I get noticeably excited to actually see my coworkers that I haven't seen in a long time. So got a lot of stuff done, was able to put, actual people faces to names that I've only seen and things like that. But it's just you cram so much into the short amount of time that you're there that you get back and it's like, what just happened? So yeah, and then it's a Monday. So, this is my, you guys were talking about hobbies and things like that earlier. This is like my new thing is I have become one with my deck. Like I used to feel like I would just had to fill my time with something productive, even if it was for, hobbies or whatever. But for whatever reason this summer I have grown to very much love doing things outside, even yard work. And then when I'm not doing that, I'm literally laying my ass on my deck in my patio or in my little baby personal pool over here in 6 inches of water and doing absolutely nothing. And it is the best feeling in the entire world.
Intentionally doing nothing is such a gift. I'm so excited for you. How fun.
Yep.
Well, today's topic is accountability, and I have been asking the most whack ass, not well thought out questions, but like feel like really impactful. And then I get halfway through talking about it, and I'm like, I think I'm speaking in tongues, but I've at least, and selfishly, the benefit is I get to listen to smarter people than I talk about their lives, and then I learn things about my life. So this is perfect for me. So this is a real loaded question that I'm going to ask you just to round it out, but also don't worry if you don't have an answer because it's a bad question. Okay. In what ways are you building trust with yourself in terms of like self accountability? And then in what ways do you feel you need to heal? Now, I think you answered us pretty well with just what you said in terms of like healing the parts of you that felt like you needed to be productive all the time. But in which ways do you feel like you are building trust? And in what ways do you feel like you are, or what areas do you think you need to heal?
Okay, so one thing, actually, I was just feeling this today too, but like one thing I still struggle with is, I don't know, I guess I'll call it like excitedly over promising things from a work perspective. Like in the moment, if I'm talking to somebody and they're goddamn bugs, right? Like you can see a path forward to help them solve their problem or at least get them closer to their desired outcome. It may not be, the original intended way they set out to do it, but it's a good conversation and you get done with it. But by the end of it, there are things that you know how to do, or you know where to get them, or that you've now taken on a certain portion of the work unintentionally almost. And it's like in the moment, I think I can do it. I'm super excited about it. And then as soon as I get off the call, 37 other things are waiting in line right behind it. I lose sight of it. I don't write it down. I assume they need it faster than they actually do, just things like that. And then I just get so overwhelmed with it that I forget about it or hope they forget about it. And then it just becomes this vicious cycle where it's like, I feel like an asshole because I have promised something and it's within my full capabilities to do it, but it's just part of the stack then at that point. And then I lose the trust and accountability from that way because I say I can do something, I don't actually deliver. And yeah, working on that one a little bit more directly than I have been, I guess, in prior years, my entire life.
Yeah. Same. When you find the answer to that one and what strategies to heal that, feel free to send it my way because I feel like 99.999% like I am always doing this. And that's where my perfectionism, because I know I could and can and said I would and all this stuff, it's where my integrity is being held. Like perfectionism is wearing integrity as the cloak, sneaking in and making me feel horrible about my good ideas. And that's where I think if I ever expanded Peachy Profitability, which is so far out of the scope of a plan right now, but I think I would have to find myself a really good closer because I am an excellent opener and I want to give ideas to the universe for someone else to complete because I know we have all these cool things that could be so cool and then it gets to like reality and then unfortunately I just sold this huge dream that I have none of the cash to I can't cash the check because I'm tired. Which is so tough. So yeah, as you heal that, feel free to give me any insights and tips on that.
You will be the first person I call.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Circling back on something you said that caught my attention earlier. Oh, my dog is, hey, Hanky.
Oh my gosh, tell him happy birthday for me.
Oh, I will. He, yes, is my adorable little 70-pound baby who still thinks he's a lap dog, 2 years old, going on 6 months. So, but he doesn't understand that it's like blazingly hot outside and he's covered in fur, literally. So he can only be out for short periods of time right now. And he gets mad at me and stares at me out the patio door, which is fair. But you were talking about, you mentioned Pepsid and you even called yourself on it. You're like, I'm crossing a couple of things here, but like this means thing. It's a true thing. So fun fact, like because of the way that your body metabolizes your ADHD meds, if you have too much acid in your stomach, when you take them, it actually completely negates the effect because it never actually gets absorbed fully. So, and this is I'm not a doctor, to preclude this and things like that. So do at your own risk here, obviously, audience. But I actually take 2 Tums in the morning before I take my ADHD meds and I usually take them and wait 15 to 20 minutes and then I take my meds. And 9 times out of 10, the efficacy is a very, very noticeable difference for sure. So that may be, kind of what you were seeing, hearing, reading, but not getting straight answers on.
So that specifically for ADHD meds. And then on top of that, if you PMDD with histamine is like a secondary thing. So I just fact checked myself. Now, did I fact check myself really well? No, it's Google AI review. So like double, I'm spewing venom here. But now it says there's no established scientific evidence. However, I have seen some anecdotal evidence, and I've tried it a few times myself, and it weirdly kind of worked. But I don't know if that's just the placebo or not. We're all women of science, but we're not doctors.
But that's the thing is, like, if it worked, then whether it's a placebo or not,
True.
right? Like that's the whole, like, your own psychological conditioning thing too. So if it worked, run with it. Who cares what the internet says? Because according to the internet, Abe Lincoln said everything.
Exactly. But apparently, they're with PMDD, which is like severe mood and physical symptoms connotated with the menstrual cycle, like very dysphoric. If you take Pepcid, which is an antihistamine, histamine is something that is, it, in other words, fucks around on your emotions. I think that's what the science said. Which
But, I mean,
is
there's lots of things like, I just had an appointment today with my doctor, and he's like, look, this should be working. It's not 100% working as we did. So we're just going to try a different brand of the same thing. And, try that for a bit, because everybody reacts, and,
Yeah.
it's 90% of the same thing, but maybe it's just that 10% difference between this brand and that brand that will make a difference. So
The
Absolutely.
fillers are the killer.
Literally.
Like when it comes to ADHD meds, I between brands, even between generics, like when there was a very big shortage from November to March last year, I think I was on 4 different generics of what it was, and it was I felt like an absolute psycho between them, because it's such a big difference. Even though, yeah, it shouldn't be, but yeah, it's crazy actually. It is good when you get a doctor who like validates that though, and doesn't just write it off like you're crazy because it's the exact same thing,
Yeah.
but they actually acknowledge kind of what we were just saying, what Emily was just saying, right? With, it's 90% of the same genetic makeup, but that 10% is, rather unregulated as far as what the fillers can be. So yeah, I feel that one
Absolutely.
in my bones.
No, that's awesome. Okay, I have a jump to the left. And again, this came from AI. So as we read, I'm illiterate. So have you ever mistaken compliance for accountability? And can you tell the difference? Or yeah, have you ever mistaken compliance for accountability? Can you tell? It says, how can you tell the difference? Or how would you delineate?
well, for sure, you can trick yourself into checking things off the list. I think that's pretty easy. I mean, you've done that. You say, I'm going to go to the gym today, and you go to the gym, but it's all a half-ass workout because you're just not feeling it today, and you've been there, and but you went. If your goal was just to go, which is not necessarily a bad thing in itself, but if you actually were trying to make progress on something, then so it depends on, because sometimes your goal is really just go, because that's what you need is to build the habit, and that has value. But if it's not, then so I think it's easy sometimes. You kind of you show like,
Yeah.
checked it off. You've checked it off, and and again, it's not always a bad thing to do, but you can fool yourself. Sorry.
That's exactly it. And I think when I hear compliance, I feel like controlled. Like it feels like my body has a reaction to the word compliance. But if you think about like safety compliance, those are guidelines and guardrails to keep you safe, or like compliant to, or like, I mean, I think changing I in this moment when I showed the word compliance, but then the way that I heard you interact with the word compliance was very net even, if not almost positive. And I actually think we're rewiring the brain in this moment that compliance is not necessarily a bad thing if you don't frame it that way. So being compliant to someone feels like a bad thing, or just being compliant. But if you agree and believe in whatever path that you are complying to, so like, for instance, like doing this every week, like Officers of the Amber, although, yes, I am being compliant to the schedule I put out, I also know that this path that I'm creating leads to a path of learning 12 new things, connecting with so many like great people. And like, although I'm being compliant and like sometimes it'll feel a little like, oh, today, like I'm so tired, but like afterwards I always feel great. So actually, I think
Well, like
I
your
want to,
Finchbird.
one more time.
Your Finchbird.
Exactly.
So it
It's,
depends on, yeah, it can be
yeah.
good or, there's two sides to that.
Yeah. I think I've been enjoying observing my emotional reaction to words, which is like a silly thing to say, but like like I've been so against the word like discipline and routine because I've always felt like I'm bad at them. And it's like by healing my perspective on those words is like starting to rewire that like discipline is something that I do. Like similar with like compliance is like, I think if we were to quote the famous Taylor Swift, like in the song Karma, like that was the first time I ever heard the word karma as a good thing if you are a good person. And similarly with compliant, like she's talking about like karma's going to hunt your ass down because you're doing bad things. But karma is a guy in the Chiefs for me because I'm awesome, you know? So like, and that was such a whack way to represent that song. I'm so sorry. But compliance, actually, if I start to rewire my brain, like compliance is an aspect of accountability. And if I was to change like accountability, peer, professional, personal, public, like by like compliance is just the aspect of like accountability is two parts. It's like, who are you being accountable to and what are you accountable to? Are you being compliant? And then like your relationship with the person that you're letting hold you accountable. I'm talking in tongues. But all I'm saying is very cool that compliance doesn't have to be a bad word or connotate negative emotions. Like I was just like when I read the question, I was like, ooh, you know?
If you're picking the right things to be compliant to.
True. Yeah.
If it's like being compliant to somebody else's expectations that aren't healthy, then that's obviously, but
Yeah.
if it's to your goals and your commitments, then.
So really it's the like who, what, how, when of accountability is like if you're picking the right what, like the right thing to be compliant to, then really compliance doesn't feel like this uphill battle. So really accountability has to start with like a firm foundation of like who, what, when, how actually fits what you want to be accountable to circularly. But okay. Anyone else have
I always
anything
try to think of it like,
Go ahead.
yes, okay, we'll get real word nerdy here because you
Cool.
guys know that's what I like to do. I always think of it, like compliant is a weird word and I don't like it. It makes me feel like it just feels abrasive to me.
Yeah.
So I always try and think of like words that are one step away or the closest nearest neighbor in both the good and bad direction. So like when I hear compliant, I don't like it because I think I associate it with complacency, right?
Ooh.
But on the bad side, but on the good side, I also think one near away in the good direction is completion, and that I like,
Ooh.
right? So,
Yep.
and same thing with God, you said a word that started with D earlier, and my brain went diligent,
Discipline.
not discipline. Yes, my brain thinks diligent. I am diligent about things. I'm consistent rather than discipline, which has the, other context of being disciplined, if you will. So yeah, that's just my nerdy way of like associating good and bad, one step away in a good direction.
No, that's a good reframe system of if one word doesn't hit or doesn't land, its nearby neighbor probably does. And I think it's good to go both directions, a little worse and a little better, because then you know exactly where you're landing. And I've been described as very particular by my coworkers lately, but because your words are reality, it's probably important that your emotions tied to those words are a reality you want to live in. And so that's really cool that you said that trick of finding the neighbors and finding the one you actually want to use in that circumstance. Cool.
Well, I think it's especially cool because, like, compliant is one of those ones that really kind of has a slippery slope both ways.
Yeah.
Some words are obviously more positive or more negative, and that one, yeah, obviously, Ashley, you took it a completely different direction, and so, you'd want to, if you're talking about that, want to clear that up as to which way you're looking at it.
Yes. Wow. I literally, so if you guys didn't know, the perfectionism community call that we did last month, I have sent to so many people because like the words that you, like the thoughts that we provoked in that meeting actually have been so impactful to a lot of people. So if you didn't know, that is actually having rippling effects into a lot of the people that I talk to, and like they really enjoy and are empowered by the things that you guys say. So similarly with this one's going to be sent freaking everywhere because the little tips that we're talking about here, I think, can really spark a lot of cool conversations and start reframing people's minds on like, how am I interacting with words? What words am I letting hold a little more weight on me than I should? And so similarly, it's like, I'm allowing myself to be particular about words, like we were saying with the reality, but how cool, how exciting. Esther girl, anything you would like to add to the compliance versus accountability conversation?
I don't know. I feel like a lot has already been covered. I think I definitely, when you first asked the question, my thought was immediately towards why you're doing things,
Yeah.
which I feel like is not one of the, you've used a lot of question words and I'm not sure why has really come up yet.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because to me, compliance feels like you're doing something because you have to, because something outside of you says you have to. Whereas accountability feels more like you're doing something because you want to, but you might want help with that. But the motivation still comes from yourself.
Man.
Is how that was my original thought on the question. And I feel like some of that has been touched on in what has been said already, but
You just slid into the end zone with bars. That was crazy. I mean, I knew you had it in you, and I'm so glad that I asked because that is, I mean, literally on my piece of paper, it said who, what, when, and it did not have why. So like, but that is, I think, the crux of it is, I think compliance comes from external, like you said, whereas the accountability is usually like a self, like you let, like in the circumstances that I want people to hold me accountable is things that I specifically want to do. Whereas I'm not going to add, like, I think there's some little things like that we need to send contracts out at work. And I hate doing that because there's 700 things that I'm missing. And it's just a treasure hunt for little things I have to do. And so sometimes, but it's always coming from outside of me, because if it was up to me, I'd never write a contract in my life. And so that's where compliance sits heavy. So it's like, how can let's circle back all the way to value. It's like, how can I derive value from this task instead of shame I'm not doing it? And so I think the why is super important. But how cool. Okay. Before we wrap up, this has been the quickest hour of my life, but drum roll mildly. I need a soundboard. Anyways, I'm going to get a soundboard before next time. Congrats to our sweet Emily for being the glow getter of the month. Congrats. Sorry, I sent you the email earlier today. I didn't know if you got it, but
No.
but yes, congrats.
Thank
You
you.
have been a shining light in the community, and I feel like you show up the most consistently, and then always with like just the most like steady, consistent efforts towards your goals. So it's always inspiring. You come equipped with the knowledge and the wisdom every time we talk. So, like I said last time, the perfectionism call and this call, you are contributing so consistently to the betterment of not only me, but a lot of the folks I interact with. So, all I'm saying is thank you for your contribution, and I appreciate you guys for being here.
Real quick on that too. Yeah, Emily, the coat rack tip, life changing. I'm not even kidding you. My bedroom floor has been clean for at least 3.5 days right now, which is
Yay!
like a goal. So
Wee!
yay, yes.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Little
But
tips.
yes, infinitely grateful that you guys are here. I'm going to head over to the Chit Chat Chamber and start working on some projects. But next month, oh, before we end, what are you guys' goals for next month? Big, little, in between. What are we doing?
I am sending
You
my
pull
daughter
yours.
off to university.
Yes. What year? Oh, yes. Oh my gosh. Congrats. Tell her. We'll
Yeah.
tell her congrats from people she doesn't know, but we're excited for her.
But yeah, but yes, she's going to need some. We're going to try to provide some fun things to make that go more smoothly. So I got some
Yay.
crafting to do.
Oh my gosh. Congrats. Esther, what are we up to?
Kept it relatively simple for this month because I knew I was going to be very busy in the last month before my move. So my goal for August is just catching up with old friends.
Beautiful.
Esther, you're moving to London, if I remember correctly.
Yes, I am.
Very exciting. Very exciting.
Yes.
Good luck with everything.
Thanks.
And
It
then,
shall be a very busy month of August.
yeah, seriously. Well, congrats and also good luck.
Yeah.
And Ashley girl, what are we up to? Just enjoying the summer with Hanky Boy?
I mean, pretty much, honestly. I've successfully kept the plants alive in my yard this year, which even though I didn't write it down, like I guess it was an implied goal.
That's fine.
So compliance and accountability. If it's not on my list, I'm going to put it on there and check it off. I was both compliant and accountable, and I didn't know I was being. I don't know. TBD. I'll get back to you on that one.
Perfect. Awesome. Okay. Well, appreciate you guys so much for coming. And then I will chit chat with you later. I'm going to, for everyone who's tuning in on the YouTube, goodbye. Nice.